Hey everybody, my name is Matt,
And I'm Ali.
and we are here to present our justice-oriented plan for addressing substance use disorder and social work practice. The purpose of this presentation is to assess substance use disorder, or SUD, as one of the most pressing social justice issues in the United States. We will be applying theoretical lenses to better understand the issue and then presenting a strategy that operates across micro, meso, and macro levels of practice, of social work practice. So, substance use disorder is not just a medical condition. It is a deeply rooted social justice challenge. According to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, over 46 million people in the U.S. met the criteria for SUD in the past year. While SUD affects people across every demographic, it disproportionately impacts marginalized communities, people living in poverty, people of color, and individuals in rural areas where treatment access is very limited. It intersects with systems of healthcare, housing, employment, education, and the criminal legal system. One of the biggest barriers we face is the dominant narrative. Too often, substance use disorder is framed as a personal weakness or a moral failing. This framing fuels stigma, which not only discourages people from seeking help, but also drives punitive policies that focus on punishment instead of support. As social workers, we recognize that the real justice stakes here are about access, equity, and dignity. At the same time, we must navigate ethical tensions, balancing client safety with client autonomy. And then here is this situation analyzed within 5 dimensions. The history reminds us that the war on drugs criminalized Black and Latin communities, leading to mass incarceration. In contrast, today's opioid crisis, which disproportionately affects white communities, has received far more empathy and public health oriented responses. This racial disparity exposes deep inequities in how substance use has been addressed historically. The meaning focuses on the stigma tied to addiction. When society views addiction as deviance, it reinforces shame and exclusion. Redefining SUD as a health issue rather than a moral failing is key to reducing stigma and supporting recovery. The context points to the role of poverty, housing instability, and limited treatment access in creating structural barriers. The power highlights how individuals with substance use disorder often have little control over their decisions that affect them, while systems, policymakers, and corporations hold the majority of the power and resources. Finally, possibility is about hope. Harm reduction, peer support, and integrated treatment models all point us towards more humane and effective solutions. So for our primary theory, we chose harm reduction. Harm reduction resists punitive, abstinence-only models and instead emphasizes dignity, safety, and incremental progress. It recognizes that recovery is not always linear and that people deserve compassion and care no matter where they are in their journey. The core principles of harm reduction are meeting clients where they are by honoring their self-defined goals instead of imposing rigid expectations, prioritizing safety and survival through interventions like naloxone distribution, syringe exchanges, and safe use education. Challenging structural barriers by advocating for healthcare access, stable housing, and decriminalization policies. Harm reduction is inherently justice oriented because it directly addresses stigma and reframes meaning. It also aligns with Finn's dimensions of possibility because it creates space for people to build their own path towards stability and healing. For our practice theory, we chose trauma-informed care. Many individuals with substance use disorder have experienced significant trauma, whether from childhood adversity, systemic racism, violence, or medical neglect. Trauma-informed care ensures that our interventions do not re-traumatize clients, but also instead promote healing. The core principles of this include safety, making sure spaces are physically, emotionally, and culturally safe, trust and transparency, reducing power imbalances and ensuring clients understand how decisions are made, empowerment and choice, giving clients autonomy over their treatment goals and recovery pathways, cultural humility, acknowledging systemic oppression as a source of trauma and validating those lived experiences. At the practice level, trauma-informed care provides concrete tools to build trust, reduce stigma, and support recovery in ways that are empowering rather than disempowering. When paired with harm reduction, it allows for a holistic approach that addresses both the structural and personal realities of substance use disorder. And then for our strategy blueprint, we came up with a community-based outpatient behavioral health clinic. And at the micro level, this would be integrated treatment that combines medication-assisted treatment, or MAT, M-A-T, and counseling, motivational interviewing grounded in harm reduction principles, trauma-informed practices like creating safe spaces, offering choice and validating experiences, as well as family education to reduce stigma and strengthen support systems. At the meso level, we would have peer-led support groups that build empowerment and connection, partnerships with housing providers to promote stability and reduce relapse risks, community overdose prevention workshops with naloxone distribution, and staff and community partner training for trauma-informed approaches. And finally, at the macro level, we would advocate for Medicaid expansion to increase substance use disorder treatment coverage. We would have campaigns for the decriminalization of drug possession, and we would push for increased public funding for harm reduction and trauma-informed services. By addressing all three levels, this plan creates a multi-layered response that is client-centered and justice-driven.
Okay, and I will be touching on the evaluation plan, the implications, and I'll be wrapping it up with the closing. The evaluation to ensure accountability. This plan includes an evaluation framework. Expected outcomes include improved treatment, retention, fewer overdoses, stronger community acceptance of harm reduction, and increased reports of safety and trust from clients. Data will come from clinic records, community health data, and client surveys. Feedback loops are also essential. Client advisory boards and community stakeholders will help guide improvements and make sure the plan remains responsive. From an ethical standpoint, data collection will prioritize informed consent, protect the confidentiality, and monitor for any desperate impacts across different groups. And then we have the implications. The implications of this plan extend across multiple levels. For practitioners, it provides a justice-oriented framework that resists stigma and centers client dignity. For clients, it offers accessible care, validation, and lived experiences, and a pathway to recovery that does not require perfection. For communities, it reduces stigma, increases safety through overdose prevention, and shifts narratives away from punishment and toward compassion. At the policy level, it challenges systems to redistribute resources toward treatment, housing, and prevention, which is essential for long-term social change. And then finally, in closing, addressing substance use disorder through Finn's justice lens with harm reduction as the primary theory and trauma-informed care as the practice theory allows us to move past punitive and stigmas. I can't even say it now. Uh, Stigmatizing approaches. Did I say that right? I know I didn't say that right.
Stigmatizing.
Stigmatizing. Tied up tongue. Instead, we can create systems of care that are equitable and client-centered, responsive, and community-driven. By reframing substance use disorder as a health and justice issue rather than a moral failing, we open new possibilities for dignity, healing, and recovery for individuals, families, and communities. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.